I know myself far too well to be a stranger of pain. Despite it all, we remaining the same. I'm just changing the game. Heart pure, never tainted with fame. Straight ahead, I'ma stay in my lane. Never switching courses, life's amazing. It's gorgeous.
What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nati with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And today we actually have a special video for you guys. We have a collab video with Juice from the Juice Alert, and Juice has been doing videos across sports, really. He's been covering all sorts of teams and everything, but he's had a lot of Redskins videos as of late, and we're just glad to have him on the channel, and this should be a fun discussion, guys, so enjoy. Hey again, everyone. So here we have Juice from the Juice Alert, and so I just want to start things off by, Juice, if you can introduce yourself and introduce your channel and all the good work that you're doing for the sports community.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on. You know, as you guys know, my name is Juice. I go by Ghiman as well as my real name. But, you know, my channel is called The Juice Alert. You can find it on podcasting platforms as well as YouTube and things of that nature. Basically, what I do on my channel is I mainly talk about football. The base of the channel is football, you know, the NFL, college football. I really dive into the draft once that comes around. But I also talk about some NBA basketball, some college basketball. I talk about MLB baseball as well. I just recently dropped a bunch of NBA episodes. And, yeah, every now and then I will drop a couple vlogs and things of that nature if I'm at a big sporting event. And I also do film analysis videos. I did a film analysis video on Super Bowl 54, how the Chiefs won that game. I did a Kyler Murray film analysis video. I'm going to do a Daniel Jones film analysis video pretty soon. Having Dwayne Haskins went out there. So just a couple things that you guys can potentially check out on my channel. And looking forward to talking some sports with you right here. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. And I guess
you can also follow me on Twitter if you want at GHIMAN, MCKINNEY. And then basically Instagram is the same thing, just GHIMAN_MCKINNEY. Yep.
All right. So again, thank you for coming on to the channel. And I guess with the first question, what are your thoughts, sort of the elephant in the room, what are your thoughts on the raging Redskins name situation that's been going on? And I say Redskins just because the name technically is still there and will not be retired until after the investigation is over with. But what's your thoughts on that? And also, if you have any preference for a new name, I know Red Wolves is sort of the name for the younger generation of fans and stuff, but Warriors is still latching on to the older generation. So I was wondering what your thoughts on everything.
Yeah, I mean, well, Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Washington football team, you know, he kind of was forced to change that in the first place. You know, his pocketbook was going to be hurt very badly if he didn't change the name. So it just was one of those things where he pretty much had to do it. You know, even if he did refuse to do it, with the whole, you know, virus going around, the whole pandemic situation, you know, you're going to have a situation in which the cap situation is going to go down a lot. Potentially over the next year or so. So even if he, you know, said, hey, I'm not going to change the name, that would really definitely affect his pocketbooks right there. And, you know, the thing about the Washington football team that people have to realize, you know, you can call them Redskins if you want still, is that the history of the team is not going anywhere. You know, you still have the team in the DC area, you know, and teams like the Pelicans, the Rays, and even the Titans. You know, the Titans used to be called the Orioles, you know. The Oilers, my bad. They used to be called the Oilers. So, yeah, they had to change their name as well. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where I understand some people, you know, were upset about the whole name change. And I personally am not too offended by the name. But at the same time, if you're not offended by it, it's really not your space to kind of, you know, sort of engage in this whole talk about should the name be changed, because obviously other people are upset about the name and want it to be changed. And a lot of people have wanted the name to be changed for years. So, I mean, it's just one of those tough situations where you're going to have to embrace change. The team's not going anywhere. And, yeah, that's pretty much all the thoughts I really have on it. You know, I think that the Red Wolves is a very, very popular name. And, yeah, I think that it could be a good rebranding of the team potentially. I like the fact that if you use the Red Wolves logo or name, you could do the howling, you know, with the crowd. You know, you could imagine 70 to 80,000 people doing howling chants. That'd be very fun. So yeah, I think that's a good name concept. That's pretty much all I have about the name, you know. So yeah, it's just whatever, you know.
And even with that, like, just to add on with the whole howling in the stadium and stuff, like we have a whole like fight song, right? Hail to the Redskins. You could sort of change that to Howl to the Red Wolves or something like that, and could keep that fight song going and all that, but can also like keep the HTTR hashtag that's sort of very much in with like the younger generation of fans and all that. So I definitely agree. You know, it's sort of time for change. Like I mentioned in my other video where I fully discussed the whole Redskins name change news and stuff. I think, you know, this is the time for social change. This is the moment where the team has to change the name. And just because the name changes doesn't mean, you know, the memories are gone. So I think that's something definitely important to keep in mind. But you know, I think a lot of people know you, I guess, in the Redskins community with your videos on Dwayne Haskins and your praise for him and your love for him. And I'm sort of in the same boat. I think he will improve this year, but do you think he'll take that enormous second-year leap that quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, even Jared Goff have taken over the years? Do you really believe in him that much?
I definitely think it's possible. You know, Dwayne Haskins, I really believed in him when he was first coming out of college. You know, I live in Ohio, so I catch Ohio State games pretty frequently. And yeah, I mean, he threw 50 touchdowns at Ohio State in his first season, you know, as a full-time starter. And, you know, if you're that good in your first season as a starter, I could only imagine what he was going to project to be in the NFL. You know, he's going to continue to get better and better and better. And, you know, he had a rough season last year. As far as him potentially having a breakout season, I do think it's possible because I believe in Haskins. You know, if you look at the first two appearances for Dwayne Haskins, you know, he was put into a bad situation with a coach that did not want him. We saw when Jay Gruden was the coach and the time that he got the playing time on the field, you know, in relief versus the Giants, you know, in the Minnesota game, he just wasn't ready to play, you know, at that time. I don't think the coaching staff really prepared him to play. And obviously he was playing for a coach that did not want him. And, you know, when you're a young quarterback, that head coach relationship is so important. And keep in mind, Dwayne Haskins only played 1 year of college football. So you like to ideally probably get around 20 to 24 college starts. That's around the baseline where I say, yeah, this guy is really, truly NFL ready. There are some exceptions. You know, Kyler Murray had the 1 year. He did pretty well last year. You know, Cam Newton had the 1 year at Auburn where he dominated. So, yeah, there are some exceptions. But you have to be patient with Dwayne Haskins. As far as him having a breakout season, I don't quite see him having a breakout season. I think that this is more of a growing year for Dwayne Haskins where he has to establish himself. You know, I think that he's going to prove this year that he is the guy going forward. I don't necessarily see him having a breakout season. I know you mentioned how some quarterbacks have taken a huge leap and things of that nature, like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, you know, even Carson Wentz in their second season, they were MVP candidates or either won MVP. I don't quite see that leap from Haskins. I think that by year number 3, not this year, but next year is when you really can start seeing him put up those big-time numbers because keep in mind, this year, it is a shortened training camp. And while the Redskins have some wide receivers I like Terry McLaurin a lot. I like Steven Sims. You know, Kelvin Harmon obviously went down, but those other guys had a lot more, you know, at their disposal compared to Dwayne Haskins. You know, they had a much better offensive line. You know, the team was just overall better. And I think that Haskins, you know, it's going to take him a little while to really hit his full stride, especially playing behind an offensive line that I do have some questions about. But I do think this is a year where Haskins will improve. He'll show a lot more consistency. I do think he'll play very similar to how he played toward the end of the year because the first 2 appearances he had, they were awful. But after that, he threw 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, had over 60% completion percentage. I mean, and that's with a bad offensive line, not great weapons outside of Terry, and a suspect coaching staff. So I think this is the year where Haskins is going to, you know, show some consistencies. He's definitely going to go through his bumps and bruises. He's going to be learning an entire new playbook, a whole new offense. And like I said, there's a shortened training camp. So the adjustment period is going to be, you know, pretty steep for him. So he's got to grow up pretty fast. But I think Haskins is going to play fairly well this year. I think that he's going to establish himself and be the quarterback of the future. And then probably after this year, once the Redskins hopefully improve the offensive line, he gets more chemistry with Antonio Gandy Golden, a rookie that I like, you know, Steven Sims. And once he establishes himself and gets that confidence, I think that's really where we're going to see the big leap from Haskins. So I think this year he'll be solid. He could break out, no doubt, you know, but I wouldn't bank on him having a breakout season this year, but probably next year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And on him not maybe having that breakout season, but him improving mightily this season. And I think, you know, he is sort of a year away, you know, with a really good offseason next year. And we have a boatload of cap space next year, and we could really get anyone who we want. And Jalen Ramsey has been thrown around, and a lot of good receivers are in the free agent class next year. So we could maybe look for one. We'll see. But I think honestly, the biggest sort of factor to Dwayne Haskins improving this year is not even any sort of weapons he has on offense, but that defense. Like with Chase Young, for example, Chase Young is a monster. He, went to Ohio State. You're from Ohio. I know you know very much about him and stuff. And he's from the DMV. He's from Maryland, and he has that superstar potential written all over him. So I guess I was just wondering, how good do you think Chase Young will be right away with, the talented defensive line that we have already, but also the downside, the virus shortened offseason that we've sort of had to go through this year? And do you think he'll hit the ground running right away, or do you think he'll maybe cool off towards the beginning of the season, but ultimately start to ramp it up as the fall months go on?
Well, I'm going to bring up another really quick point, addressing Haskins sort of, as well as the defense, because I think that my point kind of ties into what we're talking about. This Redskins defense, to me, has a chance to be a top 10 unit. And we look at teams last year that were top 10 defenses as far as points per game were allowed. The only team that won less than I believe the Broncos were the only team that did not win 8 games. Every single defensive team that had a top 10 defense as far as points per game, they won 7 games or more. Denver was the one team that only won 7, and they had Joe Flacco starting the entire season. Well, not the entire season, but for most of the season, and he was awful last year. So there is some definite optimism for this team, and I think Haskins honestly doesn't really have to carry the team. I think that they're going to run the football. That's what Ron Rivera likes to do, and he's just going to have to make about if the game plan goes as scripted, he's going to need to make about roughly 4 to 5, maybe 6 really good throws each game. Obviously he's going to need to make more than that, but just the game-changing throws, as long as he doesn't turn the football over and the Redskins run the football and play good defense, they're going to win some more games than people realize, in my opinion. As far as Chase Young goes, I think Chase Young honestly is the best defensive prospect to come out of college since, honestly, either probably Aaron Donald or Khalil Mack. I believe in him that much. He's really, really good. He's everything you want. He's 6'5", 265 to 270 pounds. And people talk about his ability to get to the quarterback, but also I like his ability to stop the run as well. Some people don't really talk about. So he has the ability to stop the run as well as affect the pass. Even when he's not getting sacks, he's consistently creating pressure in the backfield. I mean, he's everything you want in a prospect. He's disruptive. He's got a high motor. He's got a bull rush. He's got a speed rush. He's everything you want. I think that he fits perfectly with the Redskins defense, because you've already got Montez Sweat, you've got Jonathan Allen, you've got some talented players on that defensive line already, and he's going into a situation in which he's going to have Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio scheming him into some success. So I think that, look, Ron Rivera is one of the best defensive minds in the entire NFL. Same with Jack Del Rio. So we look at last year, we say, man, why was the defense underperforming last year? I would honestly attribute most of that to coaching, because the team had some talent last year. Now, obviously, Chase Young improves that defense tremendously, but the team had some real players on that defensive line last year. Just lack of coaching is what really did not allow that defense to get the most out of, that unit, I should say. They didn't get the most out of themselves because of coaching. Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio are definitely the types of coaches that will get the most out of that unit. And I think Chase Young just needs a little bit more polishing as far as, being coached up just a little bit, knowing when to use his bull rush move, because that's the one weakness I would say that Chase Young has. Not that he does not have a bull rush, but for whatever reason, when he clearly should be using bull rush moves, he just, for whatever reason, tries to get away with his speed rush. And in college, you can get away with that, but in the NFL, with more smarter offensive linemen, that's not going to really fly each week consistently. So once they really coach this guy up and get him fully acclimated with that defensive scheme, he's going to really take off. And I think that Montez Sweat also really is going to benefit from this, because he's going to pretty much have single coverage. I think Chase Young is going to be the guy that people will look to double team. Well, now guess what? Montez Sweat's going to have a lot of, opportunities to get some sacks. And I was very high on Montez Sweat last year. I felt that he could be a top 10 pick last year, and he fell all the way to the middle of the first round. The Redskins traded to get him. So, yeah, I like the defensive line a lot. It's got a lot of talent. And they also improved the defense, by getting Kendall Fuller in there. They got Ronald Darby in there as well. The middle linebackers aren't bad either. So, yeah, I like the defense a lot. Chase Young's a perfect fit.
Yeah. And I think, you can't forget about the Wally veteran, Ryan Kerrigan, who he did have a down year last year, but, I mean, we've seen him put up double-digit sacks pretty easily over the last couple of years, and could just as easily do it this year with that D-line. And like you said, like with Montez Sweat, I do see big things out of him this year as well. And I think he could really lead the Redskins in sacks this year. I really believe in that much potential, I guess. And while I think Chase Young will be obviously like the better player come future years and stuff, I just think this year with the shortened offseason, I think Montez Sweat will be that leading sack getter for us this year. And I also think Reuben Foster is a super big X factor on that defense. And if he can play, if he's healthy, he's ready to go, look out for that defense, man. It's gonna be scary things for our NFC East opponents. And speaking of the NFC East, how do you think the Redskins will fare this year in the division? Do you think they'll be one of those teams you go from last to first, as we've seen over the last couple of years, or do you think they'll still be that bottom dweller, at least for this season?
I think they're about a year or two away from being true contenders. I think this year they'll at least probably double their win total, so that's about 6 wins. And usually the bad teams are below 5 wins. If you're at 5 wins or below 5 wins, that's considered probably among the worst teams in the sport. But when you're around the 6 or 7 win range, which is why I think the Redskins can get to, I think that's a fairly competitive team. If things bounce their way, they could potentially win a couple more games. But yeah, I like the additions they made on defense. I think the defense is going to be a top 10 unit. And like I mentioned earlier, the top 10 scoring defenses last year, the least amount of games that those teams won were 7. And that was the Denver Broncos with Joe Flacco at quarterback. And I know Haskins struggled last year, but he's definitely better than Joe Flacco at this point in his career. Even though Flacco did win a Super Bowl with the Ravens, he's just not a good quarterback anymore. He's a backup. So, yeah, I think that Haskins will be much improved this year. I don't think the offense is going to light the world on fire. I think the offense is going to be serviceable. They're going to put up points when they need to. And, they really don't need to be this top 10 unit. As long as the defense just gets after the quarterback and they create turnovers and give Haskins and the offense, along with Peterson and Geis, those running backs more opportunities, you're going to score a lot of points. And I like the running back situation that the Redskins have. They have a lot of really good running backs. I love Dwayne Haskins a lot. I think that he could become a top 10 quarterback one day. I think he has that much potential. I don't quite see him reaching that ceiling yet, but I think this team is very underrated. I think that they can win anywhere from 6 to 8 games. I think that 8 is probably the max. If I were to guess right now, I'd probably go around 6 or 7 wins, probably 7. I'll go with the sweet spot because I just think that their defensive line is so good that they're going to overpower teams that may have weaker offensive lines. And you can just win games, bullying people on defense and running the football. And I don't think Dwayne Haskins strikes me as a guy that's ever going to throw a whole bunch of interceptions. I know he had 7 interceptions last year in 8 or 9 games, something like that. I don't see Haskins being a turnover-prone quarterback. He's very safe with the ball. Once he settled down and got a better coaching staff, he took care of the football pretty well. I do think that this team next year can make a playoff push, once they improve the offensive line, once they maybe get Haskins, maybe another weapon or two, maybe another tight end and things of that nature. But, yeah, I think that this year it's kind of weird because you have a shortened training camp. I don't know how well they'll start off, but toward the end of the year, I think this team is going to be very, very improved. And I think by next year is where we're really going to see this team really start to show their potential. Obviously, in the NFC East, I think the Cowboys and the Eagles are at the top. They're 2 very talented teams. The Giants, I'm not too sold on the Giants this year. I think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. I think Saquon Barkley's a very good running back. I like what they did as far as adding Andrew Thomas to their team, but I just don't believe in their coach. I don't know if Joe Judge can coach. I'm not going to say Joe Judge is going to be terrible because I haven't seen him coach yet, but I just felt he kind of skipped in front of the line a little bit. I don't think Joe Judge is the answer at head coach for the Giants. And ultimately, I think that coaching matters. And I don't quite see the Giants being the team that takes anyone in the division anytime soon. So I think that the Redskins probably finish 3rd in the division behind the Eagles and Cowboys. I think the Giants have the potential to maybe be better than the Redskins this year. But if I were to bet money, I'd probably say that the Redskins have a couple more dynamic players. I think Haskins is going to be a little bit better this year. And, yeah, I think the Redskins can win anywhere from 7 to 8 games, yeah.
I also think the Redskins will probably finish at 3rd in the division. I really believe in the Cowboys and the Eagles. Sad to say because, as Redskins fans, we naturally despise those 2 teams. But don't really believe in the Giants as you do. And Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, okay, really good players, but that defense is still really depleted. So I think they'll finish last in the division. And I'm only throwing this out there because a lot of people talk about it, but I always hear comparisons between like the Redskins this year and also like the 49ers of last year. And while I see a lot of similarities, I see, you know, that defensive line, that stout defensive line, and I see that pretty good linebacker core, and, you know, that one corner we have in Kendall Fuller, who's actually a really good slot corner in this league. And also the weapons on offense, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Dwayne Haskins, Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think he's actually that far off from getting to Jimmy's level at this point. But even with that said, like you said earlier, we're 1 year away from having, you know, a couple more game-changing offensive playmakers, maybe a really good corner in Jalen Ramsey. You know, we don't have that George Kittle type of player on our offense, so I don't think we'll have the same success next year as 49ers did last year, but I think we'll be there soon. I really do. And thank you so much, Juice, for coming on to the channel again. And do you have any shout outs or any sort of thing you want to get across before we wrap up?
Nah, man, keep doing your thing, man. Like I said, you know, I have a YouTube channel. It's called The Juice Alert. You can also find it on podcasting platforms. You know, I'm going to have some great NFL content releasing pretty soon. I kind of took a break from the NFL. I'll be dropping some baseball content over the next couple of days. But, yeah, I'll start back with some NFL content. And, you know, thanks for having me on, man. It's much appreciated. You know, go subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed to, you know, this channel already, go subscribe to it. And, yeah, thank you for having me on.
Speaking of the of baseball, how about them Nats, huh?
Well, yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, they're a pretty good team, you know. It's pretty competitive division, you know. The Mets, the Braves are pretty good this year. I don't think the Marlins are really a threat. I think the Phillies are overrated. But, yeah, the Nationals had a great year. I don't remember if I had them in the playoffs last year. I don't remember if I did. But, yeah, they really surprised me. They had a pretty good run. Yeah, Nationals, they had a good run last year.
Hopefully more success this year. And season starts on Thursday for us. So, hopefully we start off the season being the Yankees. We'll see. But thank you again for being on the channel. And that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. And yeah, and also make sure to watch tomorrow's video where I will be pretty much collabing with another familiar YouTuber, another familiar Redskins YouTuber. So I'll let you guys know some more information on the Twitter page. But thank you guys again for watching. Peace.
Looking at the bigger picture portrait and I smile wide. Performed a song and the crowd cried. How can I lie? I'm tearing up as I'm starting to stare in y'all eyes. I know that you going through the last month. You're stressing as you hitting